What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Tangent Podcast. This is your host, Austin.
This is Jack. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's good, man. I'm just chilling here with a pumpkin chocolate chip cookie. So I'm a happy man.
Pumpkin chocolate chip cookies and pumpkin chocolate chip bread are two of the best things in the world.
Yeah, really though, and homemade ones too. My wife makes pumpkin chocolate chip cookies, so I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm doing good, and that means it's getting to fall time. Weather's cooling down a little bit, which is nice. I like fall, but I hate winter.
Yeah,
so
same.
I like fall, but I also know that winter's right around the corner, so it's a bittersweet time of year, but all the best food is made in the fall. Soups and pumpkin cookies, and you can still grill. It's warm enough outside.
We get turkey in a little bit, some mashed potatoes.
Ooh, I smoked a turkey breast this week. So good.
Lovely.
Well, how are you doing?
Oh, so grand.
Good.
I don't have any reasons why, though. It's just, regular old normal stuff.
No, you
can't complain.
You don't always have to have a reason to be doing good.
That's fair.
Maybe it's better to be doing good just because you're doing good and not because there's a certain reason, right?
I like that. I call you Philosopher Jones.
Philosopher Jones. I like that too. Yeah. It's actually Dr. Philosopher Jones.
My bad.
Another person at work the other day called me doctor in an email, so it must be official now because that's like 3 times, and I'm pretty sure that if 3 people are saying it, it has to be true legally somehow.
Oh, for sure. Well, you got some space news for us? Or do we do drink first? I can't even remember.
Let's do drink first. Let's go drink first. Why don't you tell the listeners what we're drinking today?
Oh, we're drinking good old Prime energy drink. The old Logan Paul, right? I can never remember. The Logan Paul drink. And the other guy, too.
Who's the other one?
KSI? Is that right?
Oh, is it KSI that does it too?
I think.
Oh, it is KSI. Dang, yeah.
Yeah, I think they co-owned it or whatever. I don't know. I don't really know much about either of them, honestly.
I just know Logan Paul. Isn't he a boxer? Are they both boxers?
Yeah,
KSI is a professional boxer. Yep.
Huh. Yeah. What a small world of boxers / YouTuber. It's kind of a strange combo, but whatever works.
/ energy drink owner now, yeah.
/ energy drink owner, yeah. All right, well, what flavor we got here? We got strawberry watermelon.
We do.
It's very pink.
Very pink. I haven't seen these 2 flavors ever mixed in a drink before, to my knowledge. So
yeah, it's not common. Is it?
I will say the newest Strawberry Monster, one of my favorites. So I'm quite excited to give this a try. Let's crack this bad boy open and give her a taste.
Ooh, 0 sugars. You'll love to see it.
Smells. What does it smell like? I don't feel like it smells like strawberry or watermelon.
It smells like
pink
artificial sweetener.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. It's okay.
It kind of tastes like artificial sweetener too.
Yeah, it tastes. I don't know that I love that as much as the last Prime. Didn't we do Prime on the last one too? Blue Raz or something.
One that your computer had a meltdown halfway through, and I don't think know if we have that episode.
What episode was that?
What episode was that?
That was Indiana State Legends.
Oh, that's right. That was unfortunate.
We did a Prime on that one. I think it was Blue Raz, and it was good, but it wasn't as good as other Blue Raz, but it was better than this one to me.
Oh yeah, for sure. But they both have that overpowering artificial sugar taste to me.
Yeah, and it also slightly tastes vitamin-y to me.
Yeah.
Like supplement-y, I don't know. Holy crap. A six
So
pack of this drink on Walmart's website is $44.
that can't be right.
That is what it
Got
says.
this for like $3.
Energy drink, strawberry watermelon 6-pack for $43.99. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, they use coconut water.
Maybe that's why it tastes a little funky, because some coconut water is delicious, but if it's like slightly too over ripened, it can taste bitter and weird.
Yeah.
And so there's a disparity in coconut water between really good or really bad. And it's not that hard. Like the line between really good and really bad, it's a quick turnover from good to bad. I'm gonna give it like a 5.5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really like it that much. Well, we tried it. Do we recommend it? No.
No, I really don't. That's unfortunate, you know?
Probably
These have
won't.
such a huge like following online, I feel like, but like
Right.
why?
Yeah, not great.
Okay.
I mean, they have so many other flavors that I'm like probably will still try, but
I'm holding out for the fruit punch.
fruit punch is always good.
The lemon lime one, I'm just gonna throw it away before I even try it, probably.
If it tastes like caffeinated Sprite, I'll be fine with it. But if it tastes like anything else,
My guy, I don't wait. Does caffeine have a taste?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't. I want to say
it.
I want to say yes.
Caffeine actually does have a bitter taste to it.
I've never tried anything side by side that's caffeinated and non-caffeinated, like the same drink.
Yeah.
Do they have non-caffeinated Mountain Dew? I know they have.
They used to. I don't know if they do anymore.
Mountain Dew. Let's see. Yeah, they do have caffeine free. Yep. Maybe I'd have to try it to see. Mountain Dew though is already so sickly sweet that maybe the bitterness of the caffeine doesn't even come through. I don't know, but I feel like it has a taste. Can I tell you what that taste is other than looking it up on Google and saying it's bitter? No. But
fair enough.
I do not like this drink and will probably not drink it again. And I probably won't drink the rest of it. So beware of the prime strawberry watermelon, everybody.
Yeah, there you go. Not often we get one that we negatively review.
That might be the lowest ranked since the
jalapeno strawberry.
Yep, jalapeno strawberry.
Or birthday cake.
Oh, birthday cake was so gross. There was another.
I think that one was actually the worst of those two.
I just remember opening it and it smelling and tasting like stale sprinkles. Like, it's disgusting. We haven't tried a lot of the Bang flavors, and I don't know that I want to. There was one that I tried one time that was like green apple, which I think it's hard to get green apple wrong. It's usually pretty good, but everything else from Bang was really weird. Well, shall we move on to the space news for the day?
Please.
So hopefully we will have this out by the time you're listening to this. We should. But that was weird. Hopefully we'll have this out by the time you're listening to this. I mean, hopefully you'll be listening to this before this event. I didn't even
catch that, honestly.
Before this event happens. On October 14th, there is going to be an annular solar eclipse over Utah, over the state. The biggest section of the eclipse is passing through more of southern Utah, like kind of down by like Panguitch, Parowan. Beaver is kind of the southern end, Bryce Canyon area, and then the northern end is kind of where I am, like Manti, Ephraim, Price, Farron area. So Logan won't get the full brunt of the eclipse, but I think you'll still be able to see like a partial eclipse.
Yeah,
I don't know that
you
I'll
gotta go past Salt Lake to get the full. Jeez.
Yeah, it's far south, but it passes through a big chunk of the U.S. So there is a website, greatamericaneclipse.com, and you can actually go on there and track the eclipse minute like to the minute. It's ran by NASA, and so you can go on there and see where you live and if the eclipse will be passing, or you can see where you need to go to see the eclipse. So go check that out. But again, that'll be October 14th. That is not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday. Also,
what question for you there? What's the difference between an annular and a total solar eclipse?
let's see. Good question.
I
Let me look it up.
don't think I've ever heard of the annular one before, honestly.
So annular, so total is where the moon completely covers the sun. Let's see. Annular, in which the moon obscures all but an outer ring of the sun. So total, there's sun's completely blocked and you just see like light around it, like a flare. But an annular is where you can actually see some of the sun around it.
So it's like a 95% eclipse. Is that what I'm getting at? Okay.
It looks like the Elden Ring logo.
Mm-hmm.
If you know what I'm talking about. Not the Elden Ring logo. Which one am I thinking of?
The Ring, the movie called The Ring.
No, what am I thinking of? I don't even know. Wow,
I don't either.
I felt like the Elden Ring logo was one ring, but it's like four.
Yeah, it's like 5.
What am I thinking of?
I really have no idea.
Is it Quake? No, it's not Quake. No, I swear there's like a game that I'm thinking of that has this logo. But just forget it. But if you look up annular eclipse, you'll see kind of what I'm talking about. Where it looks black in the middle and then the outside is like a reddish color. So, yeah, it'll be cool. I may drive a little bit down south to see it and check it out because I'm not right in the zone, but should be pretty neat. These kind of things are always cool. And then there will be a total eclipse that's passing over the U.S. April 8th of 2024.
Yeah, but it's on the east side.
I thought it was going to pass over like the majority of the country, but maybe I was wrong.
Yeah, I think it starts in like Maine area and goes down to like Texas, I think.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I remember talking about this earlier, and I thought we said it was going to go over a different area.
Oh, I had it backwards.
Now
starts in Texas, goes up to Maine.
Okay. Huh. Well, that's a shame. Then we probably won't see any of it.
Yeah, but the old folks. So yeah, if you're in the western part of, let's see, Oregon, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, or Texas, this is your chance. And if you're over in the old Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York, Maine line, then April's your time to shine. Texas gets both. That's not very fair.
Maybe we need to move to Texas. That's what everyone's telling me.
Yeah.
Got to move to Texas.
Alrighty, well, what's the old topic today?
So speaking of eclipses that involve the moon.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. That's amazing.
Just
talking about the moon.
Today we're going to be talking on if the moon even exists. Not really. But if you're ever trying to one up any other conspiracy theorist, just say, I bet you still believe the moon exists, don't you? And then they never know what to say. Now, today we're going to be talking about the moon landing conspiracy, whether it was all a hoax, whether the U.S. faked it, or whether we actually sent men to the moon in the year 1969. So, Jack, first off, before researching this topic, I'm sure you had heard about this conspiracy theory, right? Because it's a major thing in pop culture. What was your opinion before researching? Like, did you have any thought or opinion on if humans had actually been to the moon?
I every time I heard that that is ridiculous. Of course we went, kind of thing. Like, I didn't even give it a second thought. I thought it was actually ridiculous and kind of, I don't know. pretentious and stupid. I was just like, how could you possibly believe that? Uh, I'm not saying I flipped the other way, but I get it.
Yeah, I do too. It's
That's all I gotta say at this point. Like, there's some things that I looked into it. And I was just like, man, that is actually like a little bit more defying explanation than I was expecting. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I will say the same thing, and I feel like this is a little bit different and holds a little bit more weight as far as a conspiracy theory than other things like flat Earth do.
Right.
Um, and so this one, I went into it with the same mindset of like, there's no way the government would have faked it or could have faked. I guess they could have faked it, but like, why would they choose to fake it? And I don't know, like believing that we won the space race, because that's
Right.
that was really the reason we went. So in the early 60s, President Kennedy, during this time, it was the Cold War, right? And Russia was launching their cosmonauts to space. They had launched a dog up in Sputnik, and the dog died, I think. But um, they were trying to get to the moon as well, and they had launched some failed missions and things like that. Um, I don't know if by the time Kennedy announced, Russia had a man that had walked in space that almost died. His suit, like the pressure in his suit, inflated his suit and almost paralyzed him. He was like barely able to make it back. But they had the first man who walked in space, and so the U.S. was like, we gotta get on this. Like we have to get to the moon. And so President Kennedy in the early 60s was saying by the end of the decade that the US would have the goal to land a man on the moon. And we were the first ones to do it successfully. But did we
Supposedly.
really do it? So um looking into this, I had always heard some of the like main theories that people suggest, right? But some of these I'd never had really thought of the timing of it all and why America would want to do this. But there was a book that was written about the moon landing conspiracy back in 1976, and the book was called "We Never Went to the Moon: America's $30 billion Swindle." And this was written by a man named Bill Casing, who was a former U.S. Navy officer, and his bachelor's was in. He had a Bachelor of Arts in English, and he had almost no knowledge of like rockets or anything with that technology. He also wasn't a technical writer, but he was hired as a senior technical writer in the 50s by a company called Rocketdyne, who they had actually built the F1 engines that were used on the Saturn V rocket, which was the rocket that took the Apollo 11 mission to the moon in 1969. So they had rockets flying as early as 1967. So this guy was a technical writer for this Rocketdyne company, been working for them for 13 years by the time that we got people on the moon. And he worked there, he worked there in 56 until 1963. So he did not work there at the time of the moon landing. But in this book, he just started the discussion of a lot of these things being faked, right? That it was all done in a studio, that the USA had. He calculated out the percentage of us actually successfully landing a crew on the moon, and he calculated it out to be 0.0017% chance.
Ooh.
And at this time, even though we were in the height of the Cold War, the Soviets were spying on us. They were also trying to get to the moon. He said, despite all that, like it would have been easier for NASA and the US to fake it rather than really go to the moon. So that was his justification, was the main reason that the US did this was because they had to win the space race, right? So late 50s, early 60s, Russia had been winning all of the races in the space sector, like getting the first rocket to the moon, which was Sputnik, first animal to moon, which was the dog. They had the first man who walked on the moon or walked in space. Like they had all these really big wins, and they'd like really killed the US in terms of technology, like rocketry technology. And it was kind of an embarrassment to the US at the time. And so I feel like the US really needed a win. And over time, like throughout the 60s, they started to catch up in terms of tech. But Russia was ahead for a long time. And I think the US saw that as a major failure during a time when they're trying to
Yeah.
really beat Russia in this Cold War and have this very strong enemy in Russia. It
And
was like a slap in the face.
what's crazy is like I never realized this until researching this, but the Soviets were really good at space stuff. Like really good. They were the first, like you said, a few of them. The first ones to launch a satellite into space. The first animal in orbit. The first human in orbit. The first woman in space. The first spacewalk. The first intercontinental ballistics missile and orbital vehicle launch. The first workable space apparatus on another planet. And the first ever soft landing on a moon.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Like,
Like they really killed us in the space
and the
race.
US at that point had nothing.
Yeah, we had ideas, but we didn't have anything that worked. Like we had a lot of failures. There was one that they tried to launch up that just ended up crashing into, I believe it was the ocean, and it was seen as like a huge failure. They called it Kaputnik because like Russia had done Sputnik, and then the U.S. tried to launch a similar thing up into space, and it crashed, and they called it Kaputnik. And so it was like an embarrassment to our space program. Also, considering that the U.S. had gotten a lot of the best rocket scientists from Germany in Operation Paperclip, like Werner von Braun. We had secretly brought over tons of like high level Nazi scientists to help with our rocketry program because the Germans during World War II, they had some of the best rocketry available as far as weaponry went. And so it was this huge embarrassment that the U.S. wasn't able to compete, considering the lengths that they'd gone to get these scientists. But another crazy thing that I heard was one of the main guys for the Soviets, and I've been looking for the link. I can't find it. I heard it on a podcast, and then I went and looked into it a little bit. There was this guy who, when the Communist Party was kind of taking control, like Joseph Stalin, they seized this man who, I don't know why they seized him, maybe because he was speaking out against the Communist Party, but they put him in a gulag and sentenced him to hard labor. But while he was in the gulag, he was still working with other scientists developing rockets. Like that's how smart their scientists were. That while this man was in like a horrific, terrible, disgusting prison, he was developing rockets while he was there. And then
Jeez.
the Soviets during World War II, they seized the V2 rocket factory in Berlin that the Germans were running and like basically put it back up and running. And then they freed that man from the gulag and had him come and run the rocket division for the Soviets. So they had a really good start with all this German technology that they found, and then a lot of very intelligent minds that were developing their rockets. So they got all those wins pretty quickly. And it was kind of crazy like how fast they progressed compared to the US. But yeah, the US was probably like 5 to 10 years behind until they were able to catch up. Okay, so that was kind of the origins of the conspiracy, was in the 70s when that guy released his book. And again, he claimed that there was a 0.0017% chance that we could do it. And then in the 80s, or in 1980, the Flat Earth Society, which I didn't know they existed back then until I researched this, but they accused NASA of faking the landings and argued that NASA had staged them in collaboration with the Disney company, and that they had gotten some famous movie writers and directors. So a man named Arthur Clarke, who was like a British science fiction writer, and then they had gotten Stanley Kubrick. We've all heard his name, famous movie director, to basically run the whole hoax, like direct the film for it. And so, excuse me. So again, 4 years after this book comes out, this society who is already under a lot of ridicule for their own flat Earth beliefs, but they're claiming that NASA's faking this, and a lot of these reasons start to come out because people are like, why would NASA, fake this? What's the purpose behind it? But people started looking into the NASA funding that they were getting from the government, and at the time that NASA was sending the mission to the moon, 69, that's when the US was in the height of the Vietnam War. And so the theory here of why the US would fake it, or one of the main reasons, is that they wanted to take a lot of the negative attention away from the Vietnam War. Like, hey, don't pay attention to this basically war of lies that we're fighting, and let's pay attention to this moon race, and let's dump all this money into this. And so basically up until the 1969, and about 10 years later, NASA was getting all this funding to fund this moon program. But as soon as the Vietnam War was over, that funding dramatically dropped. And so NASA, they were still getting funding from the government, but it wasn't anywhere near the level of funding they were getting during the Vietnam War. And so that's one of the reasons people think was to take the heat and the attention off the Vietnam War. Which it's kind of crazy that simultaneously the US was like, hey, let's spend all this money on getting someone to the moon, but let's also spend millions and billions on fighting a war. Like, I just think that's weird that both of those things were going on at the same time. Seems like one of those would probably have to take a back seat to the other. I don't know, but excuse me. Sorry, I got a cough real quick. Sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. Okay. So looking at some of the claims of the hoax, like I'd always heard of some of the famous, the flag and how the flag is flying in shadows and footprints and things like that. But I wanted to cover those a little bit. So I found a lot of those claims, but then a lot of the rebuttals of why those claims aren't true. And if you have any other ones or any information that I miss on these, interrupt me and tell me. Because the first one that I found was that there's a lot of photography discrepancies that people have picked apart, like film and photographic discrepancies that people have found in a lot of the pictures and films taken on the moon. And so a lot of mostly these people are completely unrelated to NASA, right? Have basically said a lot of these pictures we're seeing, they're not consistent with how pictures would be taken on the moon. And so one of the main things they'll look at is there were these crosshairs on the cameras. So these cameras that the astronauts took up were fitted with what's called a Rousseau plate, and it's basically just a glass plate with like some crosshairs etched into it, and it made it impossible for any object to appear in front of that grid, right? Because the grid was on the camera, so those grids would appear over anything in the picture. And so in some of these pictures, it can be seen that the crosshairs look washed out or covered by objects. And so conspiracists are looking at that and pointing the finger saying, that crosshair is partially covered by the flag. So like, it looks like the flag's in front of the crosshair. That's impossible. It must mean that the flag was like superimposed over the photo. And so it's covering that crosshair. Like they photoshopped it basically. And so I'm looking at some of these and I'm like, yeah, I can see that. I can see some of these where part of the crosshair is covered or like part of it's washed out. But it's also like most of it isn't. There's one with like a corner of the flag and there's one crosshair on it. And on part of the white stripe, it's like, oh, that crosshair's a little bit washed out, but the other 95% of that crosshair is like perfectly visible. Did you have anything that you wanted to talk about with like photos or anything like that?
Let me remember. Are you covering lighting?
A little bit. I'm just gonna talk about like shadows and lighting. Yeah, but if you want to talk about that, go ahead, because that's kind of where I was going to next.
Okay, yeah. So on the same topic of photography, there's a lot of speculation against it because in the pictures and videos and stuff they had, when they're in like the shadow of like the lander or a big rock or something, there's no like atmosphere for the light to bounce around in. That's how the whole sky is bright here, but that doesn't happen on the moon because there's no atmosphere. So technically speaking, if there's only one light source, there should only be one shadow, and that one shadow should be pitch black, basically. But you can still see them pretty well,
Mm-hmm.
and they can see and stuff like that. So that's one of the big things that people are saying is that those are crap. I can't remember what they're called. It's a type of stage light that's a fill light. I'm pretty sure it's called a fill light that makes it so in films you can still see the person, but it's obvious that it's dark. Do you have anything on that?
So the kind of the rebuttal that I found to that, so I understand how shadows work here on Earth, right? But
Right.
the main rebuttal I found was the way that light works in space could be different because we have the atmosphere that can refract light in different ways or cause inconsistencies with what we're used to. And at this point, without having many photos of shadows in space, it was hard to have anything to reference. So if there was any kind of oddity there or something that could happen different from how it does on Earth, it could be very easy to point the finger right and say, oh, that shadow looks different. But really, it could be no atmosphere refracting that light, or how that light is maybe bending around the gravity of the moon and affecting shadows, things like that. Also,
I'm pretty sure what the main rebuttal that it is real is that most of it is just reflecting off of the sand on the surface of the moon, and that's making it just a tiny bit visible. Which is reasonable, makes sense. The floor reflects light, no matter what it is.
yeah, that is a good point. I didn't think about that. Another one is the exposure of the photos, right? And this goes back to kind of the crosshairs too, of some of them appearing washed out. So back in this time, it was all film, and they had to be exposed, right, by usually like a chemical bath or exposing the photos to like a strong light source. And if you overexposed them, it could wash out some of the picture and make it look whiter, or you know what a washed out photo looks like, right? And so you can get some distortion or meddling of colors there. So I think that could have happened and made shadows look different than they should have. Also, it's important to understand that up in space where they were, it would have been as if like they're on the bright side of the moon receiving the full light of the sun. And so the photos that they're taking, it's like they're taking photos with the sun at midday on a clear day. And so that could overexpose the photos as well, is that they're getting like a direct light source from the sun. Like it doesn't look like daytime in space, right? But like it's basically the same as taking a picture at noonday, and maybe that overexposure of light could have washed out those shadows a little bit. Those are some of the ones I found. And then people editing them, a lot of these like rebuttals I'm finding are, well, these things don't appear in the original copies, they appear in reproductions. And so it's possible that either somebody edited it or the reproduction was reproduced at a very low quality. And so it caused some inconsistencies that way. Like, if you scan a photo and then you scan it again, like the fidelity of that photo is going to get worse and worse. And so there's always that possibility that the photos that were released could have been reproduced, 2 or 3 times and lost detail or something like that.
Alrighty. So take that as you may. If you believe one side or the other more. If who knows? Who knows for sure? What is next to what you've got?
So there was one of these like one of the hoaxes was like, well, all the photos are super high quality. Like the quality of all these photographs is like implausibly high. And it's like, well, they took like 7,000 photos on the first Apollo mission. There's going to be really? I think it was somewhere, I can't remember if it was 5,000. It was over either 5,000 or 7,000. I'm wondering if I'm picking, if it was 5,700 photos or if it was 7,000 something. I can't remember for sure, but it was a lot of photos. And so inevitably there's going to be a lot of crappy quality. And so they're only going to reproduce and release like the best quality images. So out of 7,000 photos, there's going to be a lot of good ones, right? And so that was basically the rebuttal. And then they were using some of the best cameras available. Like they had the cream of the crop at the time in terms of cameras. That they were using Zeiss optics, which are some of the best. Like really, really high resolution cameras for the time. And so people are claiming that there's too many high quality photos. And I'm like, if it were on Earth and there were this many high quality photos taken, like, would you be complaining? Or is it just because, like, what's the difference of it being Earth versus space and the ability to take a photo? You know, I didn't really get that. But some of the other rebuttals were that with the photos, that a lot of them seemed to have similar backgrounds, and that could have been like a painted set in a studio. And as far as I was able to find, like comparing, even looking up like photos myself that supposedly had similar backgrounds, I like there's enough minute differences there that I could tell. Some of the photos that they were claiming had the same background, there were captions on the photos or like notes on the originals that said they were taken miles apart on the moon. And so people were like, these are miles apart, how could they have the exact same background? But like if you're on the moon and there's a massive mountain in the background, like if you're in a valley and there's a mountain 20 miles away, if you drive a mile or two closer to that mountain, like it might look bigger. It's going to be the same background though. Like,
yeah,
you know,
and I know what picture you're referring to there. I can't find it myself. I don't even know how to find it, but there are two pictures where basically it's like a landscape and then a bunch of mountainous hills in the background way far back. And yes, they were miles apart and they looked almost the same, like basically identical.
Mm-hmm.
But their rebuttal, or I don't know what to call it, their reasoning for it is that, again, since there's no atmosphere and air, like the fog effect of us doesn't happen. You know how we can't see, hundreds of miles across the earth just straight ahead because the air eventually gets clouded up. And then, I think it's about 10 miles is when we can stop seeing, even if you're up very high. On the moon, that's very different. You can see for basically until the curvature and then you can't see anymore kind of thing. And so when they move, 1 or 2 miles, there's still a giant mountain. It's going to be looking pretty similar. And it's not going to be any more fogged. And it's a weird trick of the mind, I think. Like, further away, things are slightly fogged and less clear kind of thing. So our mind doesn't want to think that's the same picture just further away.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I mean, I kind of thought about just driving closer to it and it looking similar, but I didn't think about being able to see so far. And if if that mountain really is like 100 miles away and it's just huge, like if you drive 1 mile, it's not going to look any different. The perception is going to be the exact same. Also, I'm wondering now how many of these like photographic inconsistencies that people are noticing do have to do with atmosphere and like light refraction, maybe depth perception too, of how the atmosphere could affect our ability to sense depth and how far things are based on how the light is refracted. I don't know, but it is really interesting to just kind of think about that. And I do see a lot of these photos and say, yeah, they look similar. That like I could see a lot of this stuff that you're saying, but it seems like there are very simple explanations. Like I think people always try to think that cover-ups, like they take this terribly big effort to cover things up when really the real solution is like pretty simple. And you never think of that simple, like the simplest solution, Right. Like some of the other photographic things were that there were no stars in the background, but that goes back to it being the same amount of light as like noonday. You don't see stars on Earth at noonday. And so that overexposure, that tons of light coming in would be brighter. It would wash out the stars, right? And so even the astronauts like came back and said like, yeah, we don't really remember seeing many stars out there because
I thought that was crazy.
I did
Like,
too. Yeah.
how could you be on the moon, no atmosphere, not and look up and not just see millions of stars kind of thing, right? And
Wouldn't
then they came back and I remember seeing that interview where they were asked like, did you see stars when you were up there? And they were like up there on the panel like, I don't really remember seeing any stars, honestly. Like, and it's just like, no way, like that means it was faked for sure. And then yeah, like what you said, it's the reasoning was there's so much light being reflected off the ground and from the sun full exposure that it's the same reason you can't see the stars during the day. Just
right.
so much light drowning it out.
Right. And what was I just gonna say? I don't remember. Oh, it was like if you've always dreamed about going to space and you have these grand visions of like what space is gonna look like, and then you get up there and you see 0 stars, wouldn't you be a little like bummed out by that?
Oh, I'd be upset.
I'd be
dude.
like, I spent all this time and money to come up here for nothing. This is bull crap. Want to see some stars? But yeah, that was kind of crazy though. Let's see. Some of the other things. Did you hear about the rock with the C on it?
I did. I have heard of that. Yes, the prop rock.
Yeah, I had never heard about this until
I didn't until I did the research. Yeah.
But basically, what happened was there was a rock in a picture. It's a picture of them like one of the astronauts next to like the rover, the little car, and on one of the rocks you can see what looks to be a pretty clear letter C. Like it's a perfect letter
it's like
C.
Either ingrained in it or like markered on,
yeah, or
chiseled
stamped,
maybe
yeah.
a little bit, or yes, who knows? But it looks like a C. Like it doesn't look like a normal thing of nature.
So I looked into this one and like looking at that rock, I'd be like, yeah, that dang looks like a C. That's non-disputable. But then right next to it, I saw the original photograph and there's no C. And so I was like, okay, either one of the rebuttals was that, yeah, that C may actually exist on a reproduction because like if you're photocopying this or reproducing it in some other way, there could be something that gets in the way of your photocopying, like maybe a little hair or something. I'm like, that looks a little too perfect for it to be just a hair.
Yeah.
But I don't see that letter C at all in the original photo or what's claimed to be the original photo, right? Some people are like, well, that may not be the original. Like, what if they edited the original and took out the C and released that one or whatever? And it's like, oh,
here's the thing. I guarantee they edited the photos before they released them.
For sure.
100% guaranteed. Now, what they did with those, I have no idea. If they added things in, if they took things out, if they just made it look prettier, I don't know. Like, but they definitely did something, and maybe a mistake was made in one way or another.
Here's my one qualm with this letter C is, so according to that book that I told you about that the guy wrote, the $30 billion swindle, if this really was a $30 billion operation, do you not think they would have taken a little more care to hide the letter C on one of their props, or like when they're editing their photos that they might have noticed that?
I don't know. Maybe there's just a lot to, you can't catch everything.
Maybe, but I feel like they would have combed over those photos for any evidence, like if it was a hoax. Because there's not a lot of other things to be like, okay, this could be a prop or this could be a prop. Like,
hey, here's how it happened then. One of the people doing the editing had a change of heart and was like, I need to put a hint in without getting fired, and released it like that. And C was his hint.
Maybe that was his initial or something.
Or eating liars. I can't think of anything.
Yeah, what's a word that starts with C? I don't know.
Yeah, I got nothing. Maybe it was C as in check the crosshairs. It was a hint about the crosshairs.
Ooh, yeah, he's...
No, you would have put a crosshair in it then. That would have been way better.
Well, no, because there's already crosshairs.
Anyway.
Let's see. Yeah, I can't find. I'm looking up letters that starts with words that start with C, and I can't find anything. But I don't know that I believe that one. It looks to me like it's been edited, and if it wasn't, like if it was in the original photo, I do believe that it would have been obvious enough for somebody to catch.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my thought. What's your thought on that one specifically? Do you believe that that is an actual C on the rock or not?
I think it is actually something there, but I think that due to, I don't know, the lighting conditions, or the copy on copy or some sort of editing, I think like maybe the contrast or some, technical term, insert technical term here, it just happened to accentuate it. Maybe it's just a regular old bump, and
Yeah.
and just the way the picture was taken and the way it was edited, and so on and so forth, it just kind of made it look like a C. And you know people want to find things, so
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it could be just a natural bump on the rock. I will say though, it is uncanny how perfect the C is. That's what I will say about it.
well, you know what they say about the old monkey in a typewriter, right?
But they'll write Shakespeare or something. Is that the thing?
Yeah, if you give monkey a typewriter, eventually he'll write out every work of Shakespeare, like by chance.
Hmm.
So meaning eventually a perfect letter will get carved into a rock at some point in the universe. It's bound to happen.
It is not that far fetched for me to think that over millions of years that could have happened to one rock, because you don't see it on any other rocks there. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there would have been more evidence of there being props for.
There's some people that claim they see reflections in like their visors and stuff.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Like they can see the studio lights or something like that, but I can't find that one right now. But you want to know which one I think is the most scientifically, like, most likely less ridiculous claim?
Let's hear it.
Have you looked at anything about the Van Allen belt?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the Van Allen radiation belts, for those who don't know, I didn't know before this, is a zone of energetic charged particles. Anyway, it's basically a belt around, like a magnetic belt around the Earth that kind of it's being pushed by the solar winds, and so it's a lot smaller on the side where the sun is facing, and it's really big on the opposite side of the sun hitting us. Anyway, it apparently has so much radiation that many experts have said it's basically impossible to get through without dying. And that was kind of like, oh, really? Like, that's a real thing? And I don't know. Did you find anything regarding that?
Well, I did find that the Russians, that's why they actually hesitated on sending astronauts to the moon, was because they were really concerned about them dying of that radiation, or that radiation like affecting the ship or something. But the US was like, they're going to be passing through it just for maybe a couple hours, and that level of exposure for a couple hours is not
it'll kill you, and some are like, it's not that bad, it's like an x-ray kind of thing. That seems weird to me. I feel like everyone should be on the same page there. Anyway, what do we have next?
So, I mean, there's a few, right? There's the flag. So that's one of the more famous ones, is that in one of the videos you see the flag kind of waving. I don't know if you've ever seen the video of the flag.
I honestly feel like this is the easiest one, like the most believable one. I don't understand why this is such a big part of it. If you shove a flag into the ground, it'll wiggle around because of the momentum. And since there's no air to stop it with drag, it's going to keep doing it for quite some time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's going to take a lot longer for it to slow down. But then people also, like, they reference that, like, there's no wind in space, like, there's no atmosphere. Yeah, of course there isn't. Like, there's no wind to, like, blow it, but also like you said, there's no drag to stop it. So if you move it at all yourself, it's just going to keep going. And then also they claim that the flag is like standing up weird, like it's just like it's laid out, but there was a wire that they had ran through the top of the flag to make it lay out like that.
So it wouldn't just angle straight down because there was no wind.
Yeah. So I'm with you on that one. That one to me is like, that one's pretty easily believable that's real. I don't know. But I guess the main one that I think about now is why haven't we been back? Because you hear there have been 6 manned missions to the moon. 5 of them came back safely. Let's see. So it was Apollo 13 that crashed. So Apollo 11 was one in 69. Let's see.
Apollo 13 is one that had the problem with the oxygen, so they had to come back.
Oh, did they come back? Okay.
I think so. Yeah, Tom Hanks did a movie about it.
That's right. Let's see. So there were 6 Apollo missions that landed on the moon. So 12 men in total have walked on the moon. But so there was Apollo 11 through 17, and then they stopped them after that for an indefinite amount of time.
Did they ever give a clear reason as to why? My guess is it was just too much money and there was nothing else to do, but I don't know.
That would be my guess too. I mean, the conspiracy theorists say that it stopped around the time of the Vietnam War ending, right? When was the last Apollo mission? It would have been
by
17.
1970. All Apollo missions were canceled.
So 69 was the first one. Let's see. 1972. Apollo 17. So yeah, it was over a 3-year period, I guess, that we were sending all those.
According to Royal Museums Greenwich, it was canceled for an indefinite amount of time. The main reason for this was money. The cost of getting to the moon was, ironically, astronomical.
See, like, really, though, because if you think about it, back in 1969, let's see, 1969 money to 2023. Because that guy said it was a $30 billion blunder. So let's see, how many zeros are in billion? There's 9, right? That would be, oh my goodness, 250 billion 974 $1,931,880.11 today. So oof. Let's see, 30 divided by 250. So, wait, am I doing that right? So it's 12%. The cost of what it was back then is 12% of what it would be today. Does that make sense? So it's basically 88% more expensive to go. Is that right? I might be doing the math wrong, but
yeah, I have no idea. You lost me.
30 billion is 12% of 250 billion, almost 251 billion. That's what it would cost today. That's a lot of money. 250 billion. I mean, we send money to Ukraine like it's insane, but that's crazy though. And back then, that was a lot of money. But yeah, that's my question is, you always hear people say, and I actually looked this up, the moon landing computer versus an iPhone.
Oh, like, yeah, the iPhone 4 was like the same amount of transistors or something like that.
So get this. So the iPhone 6's clock is 32,600 times faster than the best Apollo era computers and could perform instructions 120 million times faster. You wouldn't be wrong in saying an iPhone could be used to guide 120 million Apollo era spacecraft to the moon all at the same time. So, yeah, it's like, why haven't, obviously the money, but like, we have the computing power. We have a lot of money. Well, I don't know if we have a lot of money in the US. We seem to spend a lot of money in the US. And so
I think we have a lot of money.
I think we're probably out more money than we have as
Oh,
far
for
as
sure.
national debt. But um like it is very surprising to me that we haven't been back since the 70s. I don't know. I
Yeah,
think
it's
that
weird. I agree.
considering the technology that we have, you'd think that we'd be able to make it happen fairly easily. Um or that there hasn't been a billionaire that's just been like, "Hey, I've got 5 iPhones. Let me send someone to space. Let me send someone to the moon." Like why hasn't Elon Musk done it yet? I don't know, but
He's working on it.
he's working on it. He's working on getting to Mars, which is even more impressive. But yeah, that's the thing. Why haven't we been back? And everyone says, well, they didn't need to after the Vietnam War ended. The space race was done. We won, and the war was over, and so we didn't need a distraction anymore. And so why spend the money on it? The other reason is we never went. All of the landings were
Yeah.
fake. See, some people say just the first one was fake so that we could win the space race, but then the rest were legit. And then some people say all of them were fake. I don't know. Um, but yeah, that like why do you think we haven't been back? What's your thought on that?
I honestly feel like it's all political. It's who's fighting for the money from daddy government, and I really don't think they care about the space race at all. Like, they're basically thinking it's a waste of money. What's out there that's going to help us? It's just nothingness and rocks and dirt. So we're not going to fund it.
Hmm.
That's my take on it. Even though space is cool as crap.
It really is. I was thinking today because I was looking at pictures from the 1969 launch and just thinking like, imagine how terrifying it would be to be on that spaceship, knowing the past failures that had happened. I mean, like, I'm
Oh
going to the
yeah.
freaking moon. There is literally nothing up there. Like, that would be. I never really considered how terrifying that would probably actually be.
Yeah, that's horrifying for sure.
But also really cool, like you said.
All right. In the interest of time, I'm gonna throw a few more things at you real quick.
Okay.
Um, what's up with the original tapes? Did you ever go across that?
Explain.
I'm pretty sure that NASA, quote unquote, accidentally lost or taped over the original tapes from when they filmed when they were on the moon. It's like, that is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, they were lost. Let's see.
Like, how do you lose the original moon landing tapes?
Most likely
Weren't those in a
erased.
safe or something?
Most likely erased and reused for later NASA missions. According to
Really?
a
They couldn't
NASA
have spent the other
investigation.
couple $100 for another hard drive?
Back then, hard drives were big and expensive. Okay, man. Maybe it was like a full room size worth of storage.
That's one thing that I considered suspicious.
That is a little weird. I never.
That is something you put into archives and you keep forever, kind of thing, and never touch. Not, oh, whoops, we lost them. Oops. Oh well, you can't look at the originals anymore. It's just like,
That is weird. I never thought about that. Even today,
I
you
find that very hard to believe. But well, I don't know, maybe.
even with any kind of copy or reproduction of something today, you keep the original.
So yeah, every video you see and every whatever, it's a copy of a copy of a copy of who knows how far back it goes, and things get weird at that point. But I would love to see the originals, and I'm sure a lot of people would. And I don't buy that they don't exist. I will say that I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Not completely, anyway.
I had never heard of that one, so that is a little sketch.
Okay, one more thing. Did you ever go across Carl Wolf in your? Would not be surprised if you didn't.
Carl Wolf.
Yeah,
Was he the dude that talks about alien bases on the moon?
that's the guy.
Okay, I've heard some of his stuff. Like I probably heard his name in a podcast or something, but I didn't look into him much. Oh,
All right,
this
all
was
right.
the guy that was. Sorry, you go on, because yes, I remember Okay, go on.
I was just gonna read you what he did a press conference. And here's what he said. Quote, "My name is Carl Wolf, and I was a precision electronics photographic repairman with a top secret crypto clearance in the mid 1965. I was loaned to the Lunar Orbiter project at NASA on Langley Field. I was taken into the laboratory where the equipment was malfunctioning. I couldn't repair it in the dark. I asked to have it removed. An airman second class was in the dark room at that time. I was also an airman second class. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me in a very distressed way, 'By the way, we've discovered a base on the back of the moon.' Then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me. Clearly, in these photos were structures of mushroom shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working on compartmentalized security. He had breached security, and I was actually very frightened at that moment. I did not uh, I did not question him any further, and a few moments later, someone did come into the room. I worked there for 3 more days, and I remember going home and naively thinking, I can't wait to hear about this on the evening news. And here it is more than 30 years later. I hope to hear it again tonight, and I will testify under oath before Congress that what I'm saying is the truth."
Hmm.
Like, what the heck? Like, what's that about?
That is crazy. So that dude, sorry, so Carl Wolf, so he comes out. He was under oath when he said that. Was that right?
I don't know that for sure, but he said he would testify under oath to Congress
Okay,
that he was telling the truth.
Maybe that's what it was. So you know that he died, right? Did you mention that?
I did not know that.
So, Carl Wolf, he died after a tractor trailer hit his bike. This was recently, like 5 years ago, but he was in a car accident. Some people speculate that he was murdered because he had evidence or something, or was going to come out again. But this was he was 74, and he is 2018. So this was, when did you say that he came out again?
That was 2001.
Okay, so this is 17 years later. Maybe he still had something cooking, that he was going to bring out, but yeah, he was struck by a truck, which is really sad, and he died. He was 74, riding his bike. People claim that it was murder. So there is something.
That was astounding to me that existed, and I'd never heard of that before.
I had never heard of that either. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, here's the thing. So I was just thinking before you said that, one of my things is going to be, I feel like people are notoriously bad at keeping secrets, and if this had been a great cover up, like I feel like more people would have come out and talked about it. But if they're all getting hit by trucks or killed off, like, we don't hear about it, I don't know. That is crazy.
It's crazy stuff. So I guess we haven't really talked about it, but I'm guessing your take is you believe we did land on the moon.
Yeah, I want to believe that we did. I think that it's really cool. It's something that's been part of pop culture for so long, right? Like, I have this vivid memory when I was a kid of the MTV, the MTV clip with the astronaut on the moon.
Oh, yeah, dude.
I have this vivid memory of that, and is just like so ingrained in American culture. I feel like we're the country that went to the moon. We won the space race. So maybe it's like this American pride thing, but I'm also just like, I want to believe we made it to space because that's freaking cool. Yeah. And I think we could have done it. I really do. And so I don't find it out of especially, since I grew up in the technology era that we're in now, I don't find it outlandish to believe that we went. Maybe back then it was, a huge feat, but now I'm like, yeah, we could have gone to the moon. So yeah, I would say I still believe, but I'm keeping an open mind.
That's fair.
What about you?
Um, I believe we did go to the moon. Yes, but I also believe that NASA was hiding something.
Like what? Like
I don't know.
aliens?
Maybe it was something small. Like I honestly don't know, but like the fact that there's all these things against them and like the things like they lost it and that guy coming out and saying something. I don't know. I guarantee that they didn't tell us everything. That's all I'm saying. Not that they were hiding aliens, not that like maybe they discovered a weird uh atom or I don't know science, a new molecule,
Element
uh
115.
a new element, a new type of dirt, who knows, like that makes your flowers go twice as fast or something like that. I don't know. Maybe a rock that was like hot pink. That'd be cool. Like naturally, like super hot neon Barbie pink.
What if the moon was really colorful, but we couldn't tell because it was all black and white photos?
Now you're asking the real questions.
On an
Anyway, I do think
interesting.
they altered images. That's all I'm that or just didn't tell us everything.
So on an interesting tiny side note with that, I do think it's possible, and I heard some theories about this, that yes, we went to the moon, but that it could have been possible that they're like, oh, hey, we wanted more pictures of this and this, but we didn't get it. Let's recreate that scene here and take it. So like
I could see that.
we'll use these
Like, dang it, that was a really
backgrounds.
cool moment or something like that. But this
Yeah.
picture is like so blurry beyond even repair, kind of thing. Let's just recreate it.
Yeah, and so it's like we'll use the same backgrounds, and maybe we make a mistake or two on these photos, and
I
that's why
could
some
see
of them
it.
looked dropped. I could absolutely see that, right? Like you go up there and then you want to recreate some of it, so you quickly do it in a studio over a day or a couple days, and you're done, and no one is the wiser. But you still have all the evidence and legitimacy that you did go to the moon. So could be a case of both, right? So that's where I lean more than that we didn't. I don't want to believe that we didn't. This is a conspiracy. Like a lot of conspiracies, I'm like, I want to believe this. It's a cool conspiracy. This one, I'm like, no, I want to believe the opposite. I don't want to believe the conspiracy.
That's fair.
Well, let us know what you guys
Yeah.
think. We'll put a poll in this episode on if you believe it was faked or not. Let us know if we missed any of the major things. I feel like we covered pretty much everything major and
Yeah, there's a few
obvious.
other things like I know some people talk about like blast craters and I don't know, a few other things, but like yeah, we covered most of it.
There is
I
a
think.
weird thing that so Six Flags from all the moon landings that are posted on the moon, the only one that's ever been knocked down is the one from Apollo 11, the first landing. And so people are saying they knocked it down because that was the one they faked when really it was like one of the rovers that landed and the jets knocked it down or whatever. But
Oh,
some
really?
people are like, "Oh, they
Weird.
knocked that down on purpose because it was faked and so it's a symbol." But yeah.
Interesting. Don't we have reflectors on the moon too?
Uh is that so you can see it at night?
I'm pretty sure like for like tests of some sort, they have reflectors so that we can shoot a laser beam straight up and it hits the thing and comes straight back down, and we study that somehow.
I don't know, but I feel like my joke went right over your head.
Oh, you said a joke? What'd you say? I don't
You
even
said
remember.
the moon has reflectors, and I said, "Is that so we can see it at night?" And
Ah,
didn't even laugh.
I didn't even. I honestly don't even think I heard you speak.
Oh, okay. Fine.
Just tuned you out for a good 4 seconds there.
Well,
My B.
this was a fun one. I mean, I've heard so much about it, but never dove into it. So it was fun
Yeah.
to research and definitely a good time. So let us know what conspiracies or other topics you want us to cover. And thanks again for listening. We love you guys.
Share with your friends. Stay beautiful and love yourself. Is that what those people say now?
The way you look that much, baby, you should go and love yourself.
I don't know what's happening right now.
You don't know that song?
I do not.
It's a J Beeb song, man.
That would probably explain it.
The way you look that
You don't have to,
baby.
No.
You should go and love yourself. Yeah, I do. Well, thanks, guys. We will catch you on the next one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.